Ever think about how much electronic music is? Like everywhere these days.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Like massive festivals, every genre imaginable.
Right, from pop to that deep underground stuff.
But it all goes back, to these really specific roots. We're
Hmm.
talking way before, like, the big EDM explosion.
Oh, yeah.
This deep dive, we're going way back to the 70s.
Okay.
The birth of house music.
Awesome.
And get this, it all started in Chicago.
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Not some fancy studio, right?
Yeah,
A dimly lit warehouse.
really.
This was like a community finding its voice through music.
That's so cool.
It's a story of like resilience and pure creative energy.
I'm definitely intrigued.
And our guide for this is an amazing NPR episode from Throughline.
Oh, cool. I love Throughline.
They talk to the people who were there, like right at the start.
Wow, so we're getting like the first-hand accounts.
Exactly. DJs, producers, club goers, the whole scene.
That's going to be fascinating.
And one thing that's really important to remember,
Yeah.
house music didn't just like appear out of nowhere.
Right.
There were all these things happening in society.
Mm-hmm.
In Chicago, in the 70s, things were pretty tense,
I can imagine.
like a lot of racial and social division.
Yeah.
And disco music,
Mm-hmm.
it was huge, but it also became a target.
Interesting.
You remember that disco demolition night, right?
Why, yeah. How could I forget that?
At a Chicago White Sox game, no less.
Yeah, that was wild.
Crazy to see all those disco records blown up on the field.
I bet. So what did people think about that at the time?
Well, Vince Lawrence, he was there,
Yeah.
he
You're
was
right.
just a young usher, but
Yeah,
he said it was total chaos.
I can imagine.
On the surface, it was like anti-disco, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people saw it differently.
Oh,
They
sorry.
felt it was really an attack on black and gay culture.
That makes sense.
Disco was such a big part of those communities.
Right, a form of expression.
And liberation, yeah.
So this event, it was like more than just a publicity stunt
Yeah, it really revealed something deeper.
about the anxieties of the time.
Exactly, and the prejudices that were simmering beneath the surface.
So for people who already felt marginalized, it was like,
Like a slap in the face.
yeah, something like that.
It made the need for safe spaces even stronger.
And that's where the warehouse comes in.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So picture this, okay?
Okay.
A dimly lit warehouse, huge, kind of cavernous.
Uh-huh.
It became a haven for Chicago's black and gay communities.
A place where they could just be themselves,
Exactly.
away from judgment and discrimination.
Absolutely. And they were all united by this new sound.
This is where house music was born.
Right. And at the center of it all was this incredible DJ,
Frankie Knuckles.
Frankie Knuckles, the godfather of house.
I've heard that name.
He was a true innovator.
What made him so special?
He was blending all these different genres,
Like what?
disco, funk, even some of that early European electronic music.
Wow, so he was creating something completely new.
Yeah. And he wasn't just playing records.
What do you mean?
He was using drum machines, extending breaks, layering tracks,
Oh, wow.
creating this constant flow of energy that just kept people moving.
So he was really crafting an experience.
Exactly.
Sounds incredible.
And the way people described those nights,
yeah.
there was this real spiritual connection.
Mm.
One guy, Frederick Doonan, he called it gospel dance music.
I love that.
It was about release,
And connection.
Exactly, a deep human need.
So we've got this incredible music born out of this need for safe spaces.
Yeah,
But it didn't stay confined to the warehouse, did it?
no way.
How did it start to spread?
Well, the younger generation, they were inspired.
But what they were hearing at the warehouse.
Yeah, and they started creating their own scenes.
Like what?
Parties in basements, after-school clubs.
Wow.
They even snuck it into their Catholic school dances.
That's awesome.
It was all very DIY,
Grassroots.
Totally, they weren't waiting for permission.
They were just making it happen.
And this one guy, Vince Lawrence, remember him?
Yeah, the usher from Disco Demolition Night.
Yeah, he became a promoter after that.
Really?
He started throwing parties, pushing the boundaries.
Interesting. So these parties were important.
Oh, absolutely. They were like a testing ground for new sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And at one of those parties, something really important happened.
Oh.
Vince and this other guy, Jesse Saunders,
Yeah.
they debuted a track called On and On.
And this track was
It was like nothing anyone had heard before.
really.
Drum machine beats, soulful vocals, just infectious energy.
So this is where things start to take off.
This is where it all changes.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more. This track, On and On, it was huge, like a total game changer.
So it was like their breakout hit?
yeah, it became like this song to play at parties,
I bet.
and then this DJ Farley Jackmaster Funk.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
He started playing it on his radio show.
Wow, so it hit the airwaves.
Exactly, and people were going crazy, like calling in.
Trying to find out what it was.
Yeah, who made it, where to get it.
That's awesome.
So suddenly Vince and Jesse, they go from
Like making mixtapes in their basement?
pretty much, they were selling thousands of records.
That's wild.
It proved that house music, it could
break.
reach beyond that underground scene.
So this was a big moment,
Hugely pivotal for the whole genre.
but it didn't stop there, right?
Oh no, not even close.
I remember hearing about this thing called acid house.
Ah, yes.
It was happening over in the UK.
Right.
Was that connected to what was going on in Chicago?
Absolutely. It was all linked.
How so?
Well, you had these British DJs.
Okay.
A lot of them had been spinning in Ibiza,
Makes sense.
and they were hearing these Chicago house tracks.
So they brought the sound back with them.
Exactly. They were drawn to it,
So energy,
the rhythms, that feeling of liberation.
it's so powerful.
It really is.
So how did this acid house scene develop?
Well, it wasn't just a copycat thing.
They made it their own.
Yeah, they blended those Chicago influences,
With what?
things like techno-industrial music.
Interesting.
It created this sound that was,
Different.
yeah, darker, more hypnotic.
And there was this other element too, right?
You're talking about MDMA.
Ecstasy.
It was starting to make its way through the clubs.
I remember hearing about that back then.
That feeling of euphoria connection.
Yeah, like everyone's on the same wavelength.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that feeling got really intertwined with the music.
Creating a whole culture around it.
Exactly. And a lot of controversy, too.
Of course.
This new wave of electronic music, it got dubbed acid house.
Because of the sound.
Yeah, those squelching hypnotic sounds, often from Roland TB-303 synthesizers.
And it became synonymous with these massive raves.
Thousands of people, warehouses, fields, abandoned buildings,
Wow, just dancing all night.
united by the music and the experience.
It sounds almost like a countercultural movement.
It really was.
Like a rejection of the mainstream.
For a lot of young people, especially those who felt,
Left out.
disenfranchised by the politics of the time.
Acid house gave them something else.
A sense of escape, belonging, a way to rebel.
I can see that.
And there was this one event that really captures this.
What was that?
The Castle Morton Common Festival in '92.
Okay.
Tens of thousands of people descended on this field.
For how long?
A whole week, a week-long free music festival.
Wow, that's incredible.
They were dancing, celebrate, basically saying,
Screw the rules.
pretty much, it was a huge statement.
But I bet the authorities weren't too happy.
You know how that goes.
Crackdown's bad press.
The media had a field day portraying it as this.
Den of iniquity.
Yeah, drugs, debauchery, the whole 9 yards.
So the government cracked down,
Of course they passed laws aimed at shutting it all down.
targeting raves and parties.
Anything associated with acid house.
It's like they were afraid of it.
It was a classic moral panic.
A reaction to something they didn't understand.
Something they saw as threatening.
It happens all the time, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But despite all that house music, it didn't go away.
Oh no, it just kept spreading.
Like wildfire.
It was unstoppable.
By the mid-90s, it was everywhere.
All these different forms permeating popular culture.
And then the music industry took notice.
They always do.
Those guys are always looking for the next big thing.
And they saw dollar signs.
So they're sitting there in their boardrooms trying to figure out
How to package it, sell it to the masses.
make it palatable.
Exactly. And this is the era of grunge gangster rap boy bands.
So many different sounds competing.
House music had to find its niche.
Who did they end up targeting?
Well, they went for what they thought was the biggest market.
Who was that?
White male teenagers and young adults.
The alternative crowd.
Think about it. Groups like the Chemical Brothers, Daft Punk, Fatboy Slim.
Oh yeah, they were huge.
They became the face of electronic music for a whole generation.
It makes sense from a marketing standpoint,
It's
but
kind of ironic, isn't it?
a genre born in Black and gay communities.
Being repackaged and sold to a totally different audience.
It's a familiar story, unfortunately.
Cultural appropriation.
The originators get left behind.
Their stories, their contributions overshadowed by the commercial machine.
It's a shame, but it happens over and over again.
Thankfully, though, there are people working to preserve that legacy.
To make sure those stories aren't forgotten.
Exactly. Ensuring the origins of house music and its creators are remembered.
So let's go back to Chicago then,
Back to the roots.
where the spirit of house music is still burning bright.
We're going to meet Honey Dijon.
Who's that?
She's a Chicago-born house DJ carrying the torch.
So she's keeping the sound alive.
Absolutely. She's a force in the scene.
What makes her so special?
Well, she's not just a talented DJ.
There's more.
She's an advocate for the genre's history and its cultural significance.
She's using her platform to educate.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
She even served as a musical advisor to Beyoncé on Renaissance. Yeah, that album draws heavily from house influences,
That's amazing. It's so great to see someone like her.
embodying the spirit of house music, achieving mainstream success.
And using that platform to shine a light on its roots.
It's really inspiring.
And it's not just individuals like Honey Dijon.
Right now, there are whole organizations dedicated to this.
Like who?
Well, in Chicago, you have the Modern Dance Music Research and Archiving Foundation.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
They're doing incredible work,
What kind of work?
collecting flyers, recordings, oral histories,
Wow, to preserve it all?
creating a permanent archive of this incredible cultural movement.
That's so important.
They're making sure those stories aren't lost.
The stories of the Black and queer communities who created house music.
Right, reminding us that history is often written by those in power.
And it's up to us to uncover and celebrate the stories that have been silenced.
Exactly.
And that's what makes this music so much more than just beats and bass lines.
It's a testament to the power of community.
Of finding joy and liberation in the face of adversity,
A reminder that even in the darkest of times,
music can be a source of light.
a way to connect, to heal, to create something truly transformative.
It's amazing, isn't it?
What's that?
How house music went from these underground parties
Yeah.
to a global phenomenon.
It really is. And you know what's striking?
What?
Even today, when you go to a house music event in Chicago,
Uh-huh.
you can still feel that same sense of community,
Yeah, like-
that shared energy from those early days at the warehouse.
It's like it never left.
Exactly. It's a testament to the power of the music.
And the values it represents.
Absolutely.
It's like those early pioneers.
Yeah,
Their spirit is still woven into the music.
precisely. And what's beautiful is
Yeah.
that feeling that sense of connection and belonging,
Uh-huh.
it transcends generations.
That's so cool.
You'll see people who were there at the very beginning,
The OG.
dancing right alongside those who are just discovering it,
Like a living history lesson.
with each beat echoing those struggles and triumphs.
So powerful.
It really is proof that the spirit of house music,
Still alive.
thriving, it continues to offer that space.
For people to come together.
Yeah, to celebrate, to find a sense of belonging.
So where does it go from here?
Hmm.
That's the big question, isn't it?
After all this evolution.
It's hard to predict the future of any art form.
True.
But with house music,
Yeah.
with its energy, its ability to connect people, I think it's safe to say it'll keep thriving.
In some form.
Yeah, we'll keep evolving, inspire new artists, new fans.
I think so.
Will it stay true to its roots while embracing new influences?
It has to, right?
I believe it will.
And it'll be those who are willing to experiment.
Yeah, like those early pioneers.
Pushing boundaries.
That's how house music will keep moving forward.
It's more than just a genre, right?
So much more.
It's a story of
Resilience, community, creativity,
breaking down barriers.
the power of music to bring people together.
So whether you're listening to Beyoncé's latest
Yeah.
or a classic Frankie Knuckles track, take a moment to remember the history,
The people who created this
and
sound,
struggles they faced.
the impact it's had,
It's a reminder that music has a story,
and it's up to us to listen.
to understand, to appreciate.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive.
Into the world of house music.
Be sure to check out the playlist in the show notes.
We've got some of the artists and tracks we talked about.
And let us know what you think.
What surprised you? What resonated with you?
Share your thoughts on social media.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep listening.
And keep the spirit of house music alive.